Welcome to another episode of Let's Chat With. I'm joined by fitness coach, nutritionist, and Hyrox racer, Trish Clarke. So Trish, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
You're a fitness coach and nutritionist. How did you become a coach and nutritionist? Any certifications you needed to get?
I've been a coach for a really long time. I mean, I was a gymnast, so a national level gymnast growing up. So I became a gymnastics coach when I first started, and then a fitness coach and a nutrition coach as well. I actually have a degree in psychology from a university, but yeah, I have a course in personal training, and I also have a course through ISSA for nutrition as well. So I have both of those. And I've been doing coaching for about over 20 years now.
What made you get into fitness training in the first place?
So again, I started as an athlete, and I was a national level athlete for 13 years. So I did gymnastics first, and then I did cheerleading, competitive cheerleading, Team Canada as well. So I did that for my entire career, and then I actually found fitness, weightlifting, when I retired from gymnastics. So I was about 16 years old, and it was an abrupt stop when I stopped gymnastics. I felt like I needed something in my life. So I found weightlifting, and I actually didn't become a trainer until probably 10 years later after I found weightlifting. But weightlifting became a huge passion for me. I wasn't doing anything serious, anything like that. But I was just going into the gym, starting to move my body, starting to lift weights, starting to just experiment on my own. And then somebody just asked me if I wanted to become a trainer. That's literally how it happened. I was coaching athletes in gymnastics. And then somebody was like, "Hey, would you be interested in becoming a trainer at Good Life?" And I was like, "Sure." I didn't even really actually know if I wanted to do that at all. And then I got a certification and I became a trainer for about a year and a half at Good Life. And then the rest is history. It kind of just bounced back and forth. And that's how I got into it.
What are some of the reasons for starting to work out that people tell you when you become their fitness coach slash nutritionist?
The number one reason is weight loss.
Mhm.
That is literally the number one reason. I do feel like there's a lot of things surrounding that, but when somebody wants to start a fitness routine and get into it, the number one reason I would say is that they want to look better and feel better. So they want to lose weight, they either want to gain muscle, something to do with body composition is generally the number one reason.
In addition to your roles as a fitness coach and nutritionist, you're an active Hyrox competitor. Could you explain what Hyrox is?
Yes, Hyrox. Oh my gosh, I love it. In general, it's a race. So some may argue it's a fitness style race. So it's similar. I don't want to compare it to CrossFit because it is not CrossFit. It's not the same thing, but it's the same idea. So you are running, majority of it is running. So you're going to do 8 kilometers total of running, 1 kilometer at a time. And then you have 8 stations in the middle of that race. So you have 8 total kilometers running and then 8 stations. So you have a sled pull, you have the ski erg, rowing machine. There's some things in there that you do. And then, like I mentioned, you do 1 kilometer of running and then you do one station and then you go back to 1 kilometer of running and one station. And so you go back and forth 8 times.
How did you get involved in Hyrox? What made you want to do it?
You know what? I've always been a competitor. I love competing in general. I love sports. I love all that kind of stuff. But CrossFit actually just didn't really interest me. And I work at F45. So I'm a head trainer at F45. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's a worldwide gym at this point. So I'm head trainer there, and F45 actually collabed with Hyrox. So I didn't know anything about it until last year. So it's been about 1 year that I've kind of dove into Hyrox. Same idea. So there was a collaboration through where I was working. And some of my friends were like, let's try it out. Let's see if do you want to try this race? And I was like, sure, sounds interesting. And that's how I got into doing a race personally for myself. And then obviously I got down the coaching route as well, but that's how I got into it.
What are the normal day of Hyrox training for you?
Hyrox training. Again, so right now I'm about 4 months out from my next race, which is going to be in Vegas. There's a lot of running and just endurance-based running. So nothing too crazy, but I get to 4 runs in a week. And because it's Canada weather, it's I'm trying to find a track indoors, or I kind of run outside depending on whether or not there's snow right now. So running is kind of its own component, but running is consistent throughout the year, and 3.5K to upwards of 15K, depending on where I am at my training. But running stays consistent throughout. And then a Hyrox workout, let's say, it can really range. So it can go from doing the specific exercises that you need to do. So the rowing machine, the ski erg, the sled push or pull, burpees, lunges. It can be a variation of all those exercises, or some running incorporated with that. So the workouts kind of just are all over the place in regards to, you're not necessarily just doing one specific thing all the time, but there is a lot of running. Yeah, a lot of the exercises in multiple different ways run in different types of workouts.
How many races have you done so far?
I've actually only raced 3 times. I wouldn't say only, but just because I am Canadian. So in the States, there's lots of races. They're kind of all over the place. Just out of convenience, I did Toronto last year. So 2024 was my very first one. And then I did Miami last April, and then Toronto just recently in October was my first pro race. So I've done 3 in total, 1 pro.
From October 3rd to October 5th, you took part in the 2025 Hyrox race in Toronto at the Intercare Center on the exhibition grounds. What was the Hyrox race like?
It was amazing. It's doubled in size since my very first one. So, but this most recent one, thousands of people. It was a 3-day event, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Again, for me personally, it was a big, huge one because it was the first time I did pro weights. So just significantly heavier weights, but same race, just we do, like I mentioned, the heavier weights. But the race itself was it's such a fun environment. The community that is there is a lot of fun, but the race itself and the event was fantastic. It was a lot of fun, very hard, but that's why I love it.
You mentioned pro division. What divisions can people participate in?
So there's many different divisions. You have the regular open division, which I would say is probably the most common. So that is, you can do an individual open race. So me as a female, I'm going to do open weights. There is then the women's pro division individual as well. So I could go up and do a little bit heavier weights. So the same thing happens for the men, the open weights, and then the pro men weights. But then we also have doubles. So you can race with the same sex. So you can do 2 females racing, you can do 2 males racing, and then you can do mixed as well. So you could do 1 female, 1 male. In that case, you actually end up having to do the male weights. So if it is a mixed couple, a man and a woman, the woman does have to do the male sled push and like the heavier weights, like I mentioned. And then there's also a relay. So you can do 4 people. And each person will do 2 of those kilometers and 2 of the events. And then there's 4 people that do that. So, yeah, those are the divisions.
What was the best part and the worst part of the Toronto Hyrox race?
So easy, right off the top of off my head. The absolute worst part was the the sleds, the rope pull, sled pull. So the pro division, I trained with heavier weights. I thought I was prepared. I did a lot of work. I put 4 months of hard work into it, and I got to the sled middle of the 3rd station. So it felt pretty good. Stayed in the top of the list, with some of the top girls. And I got to the sled pull, and it took me just about 7 minutes. So the average is around 4 to 5 minutes. It just felt like I couldn't move it. It felt like it was thousands of pounds. It did not even budge at all. So that was my least favorite part of the race itself. And then honestly, the best part is all of it. I can't choose one specific point. I swear there's parts where I like literally black out because it is like go, go, go. It's sometimes like such a blur. Like you run an hour, however long it takes you. And at the end, you're just like, did that even happen? But I would say standing on the starting line, I wouldn't say there was anything specific in the race that was my favorite part, but standing with some of the top girls in the pro division was probably the highlight of the Toronto for me. It was a lot of fun.
How would you rank each station?
It kind of ranges, honestly. It can go one way or the other depending on the race and depending on the day, literally. But I would put the sleds at probably the top. If you haven't actually, let me just frame it this way. If you have not trained running going into a race, I would say that would be the hardest part. So running is the number one important thing. And I would say that would add. So if you have not trained your running, running would be the hardest part of this race. It is a running race. And then I would put the sleds up there at some of the hardest and most rewarding, but up there in the hardest. And then for me personally, I think the it gets easier, like the lunges and the burpees, because I'm shorter. I'm a little bit closer to the ground, so I have no problems with the lunges and the burpees. And I would say a lot of people struggle with those and say that those would be at the top of their list for hardest. But I would put those at the bottom, at the easier part. And then the rowing machine and the ski erg, those actually used to be a huge weakness for me, but I've really trained and worked on my endurance on those machines. So again, I think it all kind of depends. But if we were kind of to rank them generally, I would put the sleds at the top, sleds and running at the top is the hardest part. And then the burpees and the lunges down at the bottom for me. And then everything else kind of in between.
If they were to host the race again next year in Toronto in October, would you consider participating in this particular race?
Oh yeah, 100%. Absolutely. The one in Toronto is probably my favorite one just because I know a lot of people in the area. I'm from here, so it's a lot. You get to see the people that you actually talk to online and yeah, absolutely I would.
After going as a spectator and seeing you and others race, I'm thinking of signing up for the Hyrox next year in Toronto in the men's open division. What tips, tricks, advice do you have for someone who wants to do Hyrox racing for the first time?
I think it's kind of a theme of what I've been saying, but start running. When you build up, I like overall, Hyrox is an endurance race. So you're going to be doing, if you've done anything else similar, a lot of times it's shorter bursts. So if you've ever tried DECA, which I absolutely love too, a lot of fun, it's shorter. So it's generally in the 20 to 30-minute range, even upwards of 40 minutes, depending on those kinds of things. So it's a little bit faster. So with my advice when you get into Hyrox is to start understanding that you need to build a nice, good endurance base. So start jogging, start running. Even if you're a brand new, and your number one goal, you're really not into fitness and that's not your strong suit. I would really just start walking, running, but get out there, start moving, whether you're on a track and on a treadmill, outdoors, doesn't really matter, whatever weather permits, start your running. And then once you have a really good endurance base, because keep in mind that the race is going to be upwards of an hour to 2 hours, potentially even longer, depending on how long that first race takes you. So being able to be consistent in getting long distance and getting a base is going to be the key. And then just being familiar with all the movements and all the rules. Because the one thing that actually I'm kind of not known for, but every single race I've had a penalty. So I've done something silly. Your brain goes into race brain mode and it literally goes into let's just survive. I'm making this sound absolutely terrifying, but it is such a rewarding race. It just can be quite difficult depending on how hard you push yourself too. So getting in that base, make sure you're running and then be familiar with the rules of each exercise because there's specific things that you must do. For example, when you're doing burpees, you're not allowed to place your hands very far away from your feet before you do that next burpee. So there's certain specific rules. You have to make sure you jump over the line at the end. If you don't, they'll bring you back and your chest has to hit the ground. So the details, those tiny details can really rack up your time. So if you do get penalties, if you get a 2 minute, a 5 minute, sometimes more than that penalty, you could finish in a really nice time, but then that's going to rack up your time and it actually feels a little bit disappointing. So making sure you know the rules of every exercise and then getting familiar with those exercises. And then one other major tip is being able to have to do compromised running and exercises. So for example, running, making sure that you're fatigued, whether that's on a treadmill, outside, around in a building, and then coming directly into an exercise. And then doing that exercise while fatigued, and then being able to come out of that exercise going directly back into running. So I think one of the biggest mistakes that some people find is that they feel like they're super fit and they're very good at each specific exercise, but what ends up happening in their race is they're not used to going from running to exercise and working out for about 2 hours straight. So getting that good endurance base, and then just really practicing back and forth and back and forth and being able to feel that compromised feeling.
What races are you participating in next, and why those races?
Okay, so I was going to do Vancouver, which is only about 4 weeks away, but it's just before Christmas, 3 days before Christmas. So unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to do that one, but I do have a couple friends going in Vancouver. The reason being I wanted to do is just because that's the first Canadian race other than Toronto that's been added. So, but unfortunately not. So the next one will be in Vegas. So February 20th, 21st, that weekend. There's just going to be some elite athletes there. It's going to be a nice, fun race. I have been to Vegas one time, but it's not too far. Again, there's going to be some really big names at that race, and that gives me enough time to kind of train for it and get ready. So yeah, about 14, 15 weeks out from that. And then the next one after that will be Ottawa, which is another Canadian one. So no other ones planned other than those two for now, but 2026 will be Vegas in February and Ottawa, which I believe is May.
Which divisions?
Pro individual, actually in Vegas will be the first time I do a doubles race. So I'm going to do, me and a friend are going to do a doubles race. And then I'm also going to do pro. So I'm going to do individual pro on my own, and then just regular open with another female. So that'll be exciting because I've never raced a doubles race.
Finally, where can people find more information about you, your coaching, and Hyrox Racing? Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, website?
Yeah, so I mean, we do have an F45, the location that I work at. There is a website for that, but that's pretty broad. So I do have Instagram. That's probably the number one spot I use. I do have Facebook as well. So everything that I post on Instagram generally gets shoveled onto my Facebook. I wouldn't say I'm as active on Facebook, but Fit for Life. So Fit FIT number 4 Life Trish is my handle. So Fit for Life Trish. But yeah, that's the main area. I post a lot about Hyrox coaching. I do also coach flips and tumbling and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of also on there. But yeah, Instagram is my number one spot that I use.
Well, thank you, Trish, for joining me on this episode of Let's Chat With.
Thank you so much for having me. That was great. I love talking about my passion. So thank you.